What is up? What is up, party people? Like, I had to rush. I had me a fantasy football draft with my friends, so we started a few minutes late because I had to like be able to watch and like pay attention to this episode that we just got of House of Dragons.
Definitely wanted to pay attention to this episode.
Yeah, damn straight. This is an episode. I think it's hard to tell. This is like this, second episode of this new show, second episode of the season. But I do think that this episode may be the most important episode in the House of Dragons from here to the end of the season, because this right here is one of the episodes you, like you said, really had to pay attention to, because there was a lot of things being talked about here, a lot of things being set up in this episode. I enjoyed it overall. It's one of those things to where, like last week we had the tourney, we had some bloodshed, we had all that stuff going on. And this week we took a step back from that, but I'm fine because of the things that were going on was things to still like keep you on the edge of your seat. Right. So it's one of those things to where even though it didn't have like these battles or any of that stuff, it was really good setup. Like you have a lot of setup episodes with a lot of different kinds of shows, and sometimes they just stink. It's like, come on, we already know where you're going. The thing about this is like, I don't know if you know where they're going completely, because like even the hardcore Game of Thrones fans that actually know some of this, they know it's about the Dance of Dragons that we're going to actually get coming up soon. They do know some of the historical references and stuff like that that's already been set and put in books, but it's not very detailed. Like say for instance, who may live, who may die, who may be fighting each other in this historical reference, but you don't know how they got there or why it happened. In most cases, this show is going to fill in all of those beautiful details leading up to why these particular things happened and everything else. And so like, I'm pretty excited about it. I hope a lot of people are excited about the show because like I said, even though this was a setup episode, this is one of the best setup episodes I've seen in television in a while. So like, but that's my overall thoughts. Before I pass it to you, Caleb, I do want to say I do have alerts on. So like if you feel the need to and you want to put out like a Streamlab or whatever, it's down there in the description.
Well, I just want to bring up this right here. That is my father right there.
Nice, man. What's up, Leo? You got a son that be hitting that gym pretty hard. Just to let you know, Leo. But like, but like if you feel the need to and can do a Streamlabs or whatnot, and we'll I have the alerts up, like I said, so it'll show up on the screen there, and we'll answer any kind of questions or any kind of thoughts. Be thinking about this too, guys, in the chat, and you, Caleb, because like I said last week, one of the things we're going to end this with is our favorite scene and what we think is the most important scene. Okay. And a lot of times, sometimes that might be the same scene, but a lot of times it will not be the same scene. But Caleb, man, your overall thoughts before we start diving into this episode, as far as like what you thought about it after you watched it.
A little more of a slower episode than last week. You got some action going on happening last episode. This is one of those episodes where it kind of, goes a little quieter. But I like these type of episodes. I always like these types of episodes like that they had in Game of Thrones, where they just, they're just in one place and they're just having conversations. Because I think that it's written really well. So I'm always on the edge of my seat just listening to what they have to say. But yeah, it's a lot of high intense conversation, a lot of this inspiring that Game of Thrones is known for. I liked all that. And just the setup is just setting up all the conflicts that are about to come. Setting up whether it's the war or other conflicts with these pirates that are messing up the ships.
The crab feeder.
Yeah, so there's like that side conflict, and then the main conflict of this war between the Targaryens that's about to unfold, which is the whole series is about. So it's all setting up that, and also just a little bit still getting used to the different way it's shown, more than going from place to place. Now they're going from time to time because they did skip like 6 months later. From when that baby died in the last episode. Now it's like 6 months later. So yeah, again, instead of going, like I said, instead of going to get place to place like we did in Game of Thrones, going from time to time, like a history book. That's just a little bit get used to it there. But overall, I really liked it.
Yeah. Like I agree with a lot of things you said, and I'm going to tell you one thing. One of my favorite directors, if not my favorite director, is Quentin Tarantino. And the reason, and we've talked in the Discord before about this, and one of the reasons is because Quentin Tarantino can have a dinner scene, and he's done it multiple times in multiple movies. It ain't just like a one-time movie thing, but Quentin Tarantino will have people sitting at a dinner table and their discussion is so riveting that it's even more impactful than, say, violence or action or any of that stuff because of the way it's written. And that's one of the things that I like about Game of Thrones, is because it gives me that kind of feel in a TV show, because you need to listen. Because like if you're ever watched Game of Thrones, period, ever been a Game of Thrones fan in your entire life, you know that you need to pay attention to what is said, because if you do pay attention, you're rewarded in the end. Because you can always go back to the Game of Thrones, like during the original Game of Thrones run, you can always go back and see like something occur and happen. And then you can go back 2 or 3 episodes later, sometimes even further than that, and be like, oh crap, this is important. You have things like in the original Game of Thrones, like Hodor, like Brandi and Brandi's doing a rewatch of Game of Thrones. She's never seen it before, but like having this guy that's like a simple-minded guy, big dude that's named Hodor, and you have that with you this whole time, and then to find out why it actually is, like why he's saying Hodor the whole time, is like very impactful, because they let it go. It's 6 seasons worth of show. Then you finally get that answer, right? You finally get like what's up with that. But there's scenes like for the Red Wedding, for instance, like another big moment that I enjoyed watching with Brandi, where the Red Wedding happens a couple of scenes, or not scenes, but a couple of episodes before that. You have the Karstark guy talking to Robb and tells him, you lost this war when you married the foreigner. Right. So like if you listen to those things, then you can almost kind of foresee what may happen. There's a lot of foreshadowing. There's a lot of discussion and topics to have. And I think this is what this show's setting up right now today. First thing though, first, what did you think about the opening, like introduction? Like, look, the original Game of Thrones was pretty freaking awesome. Like, I don't think anybody will ever be able to beat the opening, whatever you want to call them, credits or introduction or whatever, like into the show than the original Game of Thrones. I love the fact they kept the old music. I love that. Like, don't change it. You had one of the best ever. Yeah. And I do like the fact though in this one that, because you are right, we're not going to be jumping to Winterfell and the Eyrie or any of that stuff, right? We're going to be staying in possibly like mainly like 2 places in most of it, not all of it obviously, but in most of it, we're going to be staying inside of Dragonstone Keep, and we're going to be staying inside King's Landing. And I love the fact that they gave us a more, instead of jumping around to all the different places in the world, they're keeping it to those couple of places and like having more detail with that, which I thought was really cool, really fun. I actually really loved it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I liked it more than the original Game of Thrones opening, but this right here, it stacks up there to me. I like it almost just as much, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. Like I said, the music's perfect. Didn't even change that. Also, I love all the blood. I think that keeps with what the book is. The book is, fire and blood, Targaryen words, and you see the blood just going throughout. I'm not sure if it was like a temple or the Red Keep or whatever it was, or this maybe Old Valyria. I don't know. I guess we'll find out where all the blood is going. That whatever place that is that the blood is going through. But yeah, all that looked really cool to me. I thought it was dope.
Yeah, I really liked it. Like you said, the symbol of blood means multiple things, possibly, like Targaryens trying to keep the line, trying to keep power and everything else. You got people, although there are dragons in this show that we've obviously seen, and there are going to be even more dragons during this time period, they're not as prevalent as they once were. They're not used as much as they once were. And everything else. They still have the power. They still have dragon riders and everything else. But like, it's one of those things to where there are some houses out there that probably think, oh, we might be able to step up if we're smart enough, kind of thing. And, so I think the blood is almost like a symbol of the bloodline, keeping the bloodline, the Targaryens in order and stuff like that. Now we jump from that to the crab feeder, the first actual, like, they talked about him last episode. We really got to see him in this episode, or not really see him too much, but we got to see the imagery that they put across for the crab feeder, which I thought was really super cool. And I actually like the fact that they really haven't had this guy talk. They haven't showed him yet, really. They're just talking about him. They're saying there's a problem over there in the fingers. We're going to have to get this thing set up because we can't have these pirates out here doing their thing. And just the people that are like bolted down to these like little pyres that they have built like in the sand with the crabs just crawling all over them and their mangled bodies. It's just it's devastating, man. It's kind of like it's out there. It's kind of crazy. So even though this episode didn't have as much of that kind of imagery, it did give you a little taste of it when you were showing a few scenes here with the crab feeder, man. What do you think about how they're portraying the crab feeder, Caleb?
Well, I just love the imagery in the first opening shot. Just you know, you actually saw the crabs just eating the people. The ship's all messed up. I mean, he looks like he's a big threat, and he you know, he has something to deal with. And I think it's a major point, because I think that's why it's going to show you why where Lord Corliss's alliances lie and upcoming, because he's saying like, oh, you ain't gonna help me with this. Okay, well, then I'm gonna remember that later on when, you know, everything starts going down and whose side I'm gonna take on, who should be sitting that throne, you know. So I think this whole conflict with the crab feeder is gonna be a big influence on what sides they be taking later on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with that 100%. We go from the crab feeder and that imagery, like of being like, oh wait, you know, you hear crab feeder and maybe you're not that scared, but then when you see that scene, then that changes your whole, you know, your whole thought process. At that point, you're like, oh shit, this guy, wow, okay, he kind of crazy. All right, I'm a little scared. I'm a little worried about this dude and what he does and everything else. But then we go into a small council meeting, because I'm going to say the running through line for most of this show right here so far is going to be the fact, and I think it started a little bit in the first episode. It definitely went further into that in the second episode, of showing that the king of now is kind of weak. He kind of doesn't want to like jump into conflict or whatever. He kind of wants to avoid it, which all the time's not the bad decision, but it seems like he wants to do that consistently, like all the time. Like that's his choices that he makes most of the time, is to always try to avoid bloodshed and conflict. And sometimes that may not be the right decision, correct? Like, so let's say if he would have stood up in the small council meeting when they were first talking about the crab feeder and actually discussing that issue, you know, with the ships and everything, if he would have made maybe a stronger response to that at that moment, then later on in the episode, when we get some other news we'll talk about, maybe that doesn't hit as hard, because now not only do you have one thing, him kind of sitting around and almost being lazy with, now there's another thing that kind of throws it into the face of this gentleman. So like on the small council. So whenever you're, and I got to learn these names. That's one of the hardest things about Game of Thrones, is getting all these names correct. But like with it being said though, like I think this was kind of like a small jab here, and then you have the bigger jab later in the episode that's going to culminate into something big later on. But like, what do you think about that small council and the king trying, like, basically, like I said, I think last episode they did it just a little bit, but more and more in this episode, it seemed like they were making the king seem weak.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why I thought it was a great scene, showing who really who the king listens to and who he doesn't listen to, and what is all their motivations are, and in that you really get a good look in that scene. And honestly, I think it's more of a setup scene just for like an audience to sit back and say, okay, which side you really on, you know, kind of like in Game of Thrones, I like this character and like that character for this different reason right now. I think that kind of like sets up for you as an audience member to say, okay, I'm kind of on this side, so I kind of like what he's doing over there, or whatever point he's making. You know, it gives you a chance to do that. And but like I think the Lower Corliss Valerian guy, like I think he make a good point. Like you got to go and show strength when you don't want to make war with the Essos and the free cities, but right. I mean, these some pirates. I mean, pirates are they're outlaws. I mean,
to me, like in this episode, like if I'm king, you do the easy thing. Like I think the actual princess was right. Like just throw me on the dragon and let me go burn her ships down. Like literally, like,
and you don't even need to burn them. You just need to show that you're gonna do something. You can just threaten them and they'll back off.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, when you see a dragon, I mean, there's not too many things you can say about it. You could be the most badass guy that ever walked the face of this earth. You could be the most ruthless killer out there, and things will happen. It doesn't matter. You will get cut down, like, and it does, and it happens a lot of times in the Game of Thrones. You got Jaime Lannister, who was somebody that was, too big for his britches at certain points, and got his hand cut off because he liked to run his mouth because he thought he could get away with it. Because he thought he had so much power or whatever, and people wouldn't do anything to him. And he ended up finding, out that, no, that's not the thing. Even back in the day during the Blackfire rebellions and stuff like that, you had an actual character with the name closely resembling the antithesis in this show called Daemon Blackfire, who actually gets, like, he's a badass, but like he shows a little bit of weakness when he stops to pick up another knight because he's like very honor. When he stops to do that, he gets cut down by the Blood Raven. So like things like that, like in the history of like Game of Thrones, even in the stuff you don't even see on shows, I just showed y'all a little bit of my deep cut knowledge right there. But when you have things like that happen all the time, it doesn't matter how big and bad you think you are, things can happen. So you got to get that stuff done, and you got to really look at it that way. We jump into the next thing that I have written down here in the notes is like, I really thought the two girls talking in the scepter was really cool, and they had all the candles out there and they're really getting close. I think it's an important scene, especially for a scene that we'll talk about later. But this is an important setup, I think, to set up those two girls. Like we already got it in the first episode where she's like laying in her lap and they're hanging out in the gardens, like, and talking and being friends. And then here in this scene, being really like super honest with each other, and just talking about things and being super great friends in this scene. I thought it was a pretty good setup. And I thought, like, just like almost anything in a Game of Thrones, it looks beautiful, man. That room, the candles, the scenery, all this stuff that's going on looks just amazing and beautiful. But like, how did you think about anything in particular that you want to talk about that scene with the girls?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure she wasn't being totally honest with her how close she was getting with her dad.
Yeah,
I think she was trying to keep that, she's trying to keep that hidden. She ain't gonna tell you everything. Yeah. I just met with them, but she don't know what the reason why I was meeting with them or what my dad's telling me to do or anything like that. So she was keeping it close to the vest right there. She was playing the Game of Thrones right there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like being secretive, like anything else going on in any Game of Thrones thing, like it's one of those lines that gets thrown out. It's why it's even called the Game of Thrones. Like the book series called The Song of Fire and Ice, the Game of Thrones series, but the actual like first book, everything else called the Game of Thrones because of the one line that Cersei says at one point that says, you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or die, right? Pretty much die or win, whatever, however she says it exactly. But that comes across like you start playing the Game of Thrones, you better make sure all your ducks is in the line, all your T's are crossed, all your I's is dotted, because like when you start playing that game, there's somebody right next to you that wants to get that same position that you're going for, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get it. And you better make sure you're ready to do whatever it takes to get it.
I do think that does affect her. Like you can obviously see that with her nail bids, like she biting the hell out of them. So I think she don't want to like go against her best friend. Just that's what her father is telling her to do. So that's why it's kind of making her all messed up in the head and whatnot.
Yeah, and like we move on through the rest through a part of this show right there in the middle, and I've already said it's kind of a through line in this show. The king is made to be weak, and I think one of the things, if you don't understand he's weak with his policies, if you don't understand that he's being weak with some of his decisions, they're definitely making you show that he's weak because, like in the first episode, he had that cut on his back from the chair. Then he ended up cutting his finger and nicking his finger. And in this episode, he's having to have that finger seen about. Like he's not healing very good. So his body is even weak at this point. Like they're having to put the maggots on his finger or whatever to try to eat away the dead flesh so he doesn't get sick or whatever. But I think some of that stuff right there is just showing more and more signs. Not only is this guy weak, maybe minded when it comes to like handling situations, he's also weak as far as it goes, as far as being a leader physically as well. So I think that's going to play a little bit into this. I mean, I thought that was pretty crazy. Some of the people may or may not like the way that the king was had his fingers like having to be put into the those maggots like that. But it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do there in the old times.
Yeah. Going along to something weird about this episode was, I don't know if you're going to get to this point, but when the king's talking to the little girl that he's supposed to that he
yeah, right around here.
Yeah, that's Valerian's daughter. That's just weird to me, man. Just hearing a girl like I'm gonna be a good wife. I'm gonna make babies. It's like, what the hell? Like, that's just so off-putting to watch.
Yeah,
even say those lines.
Yeah, I think in this particular situation is, which the girl is probably not as young as what she's supposed to be in the show, to be honest with you. Usually they're older when they do that. But I think in this particular situation, the king's kind of in a bad spot, right? But which makes it worse is because he's weak on all these other things, that when he gets in these decisions, like the decision in the first episode with his wife, like that's a bad decision to be in. The doctor guy's telling you you're either losing both or you're going to lose possible, or we can save one. That's a bad decision to be in, like to have to make that choice or whatnot, you know. And then even in that situation, he wasn't even strong enough to take it to his wife and let her make her own decision about it. And in this episode, you know, he's in a bad spot because they want him to merge these houses, and this girl's so young, and he's so old, like he's actually being what you would supposed to be. He's being respectful, but he doesn't like the fact that how young she is. He doesn't want to do this, right? Like he sees what's wrong with this and whatnot and everything. And when she makes that claim, like you said, about like, I'll give you heirs and all this stuff, and he's like, is that what your dad told you to say? And then, or what your mom told you to say? Either one of them. And it's like, bruh, like I get why he wouldn't want to do this. He's making the right choice. Maybe if he was stronger on his other decisions, this part may not be as bad. But you put all this together, and it's like, dude, come on, man. You're kind of going at this thing wrong at all fronts to me. And that's one of his problems. I will say, like, we go from that to where we have Damon out there at Dragonstone. You know, he's got his dragon and everything else. He's back with his people. And he's like, you know what? I don't like the wife you gave me. So I'm going to get this wife that I like myself personally, that I picked. And he makes demands. He's like, he even in his decree says, I'm the heir. I'm the true heir. Like, so he's even overlooking the princess and how the king would like picked her to be the next heir. He's overshadowing that with his own thing, saying, I am the true heir. And he's like, I went and got the egg to sit into the cradle of this baby that's going to be born, just like it is in this house. So basically what he's doing is he's doing things that technically is true and right under the Targaryen name. This is things that would normally happen. But the problem is how he's doing it, how he's going about it. He's doing it a little shady. He's going back to old rules where technically I guess they could have 2 wives instead of just one, and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, here we go. And then I'm going to take this egg that you actually was putting into the cradle of Baylor or whatever. But now guess what? I'm going to use it for my baby and everything else. And basically kind of challenging the king. Damon knows that the king's weak. He's his brother. He knows it, right? And he's gathering more and more support because like everything, he knows what's going down. He kind of sees and foresees possibly this king not going for very much longer. But like, yeah, dude, I'm going to tell you right now though, too, when they go to Dragonstone, when the Hand of the King Otto shows up there and they're walking across like it looks like a bridge or maybe like a wall that they got set up, and they kind of meet there in the middle. That was a cool looking scene, and the way they did Dragonstone and the surrounding area with like the fog and everything looked super ass sweet. Even the dragon that comes out a little bit in that scene is pretty cool. But I love the fact of like when they get together, like how Damon's acting and interacting with them. It looks like, oh yeah, well, I pull out them swords, and then the dragon shows up and he's like, put the swords back away. But yeah, man, what'd you like about that scene, dude?
I love the scene because after he does that, then she comes down with her dragon, and she come and talk to him. Okay, then she's like, okay, then make a move, then partner. Like you want to kill me, then okay, then our dragon gonna fight, and we'll see what happens after that. That then I made him back off and give him the egg, and he was like, okay. Well, I get what he's trying to do. Like he's seizing what he can. He's showing the rest of the kingdom was like, look, I can just take Dragonstone, and that weak ass king ain't gonna do nothing. You know, that's what he's showing everybody that I'm a better ruler. I can do this better than he can, and I'll show strength because we know all the enemies are gonna look at this king that he's weak, and he ain't about that. You know, so I mean, he made a good point. He just kind of doing it in his own kind of cockiness way, but he is doing it.
I think. Right. Otto was about to get destroyed. The High Tower about to get destroyed, man. He ain't that big of a badass for one. Even if they didn't have the dragon, he was going to get that ass whooped. Now, I will say, Otto Hightower's side over there, the King's Hand, they do have some good warriors. So there might not be a slaying of all of them, right? But Hightower, he would have lost. He'd have got his ass. But he needed to go to the back of the line because he was probably one of the weaker ones in his group over there. But I do like that part where Daemon tries to say something like, "Oh, who are you?" And he's talking to one of the King's Guard or whatever, and the dude's like, "Bro, I knocked you off your horse." And then he even won after he got off the horse. He ended up beating him in like combat. So like that would have been interesting. I'm pretty sure they're going to have a battle amongst themselves at some point. I hope so anyway, like an actual true battle where it's on the battlefield and them two meet up together and let's see who can actually is the better of the two. Now, I think if I'm not mistaken here, Daemon does have, I think what is called the sword he has is called, is it Night Sister?
Yeah.
Something like that is the name of the sword. Dark Sister. So like, he has one of these cool ass named swords of Valyrian steel. So like, he's got to mean something and you got to be about something to be carrying one of those around. You don't get to walk around Westeros with a Valyrian sword like that without meaning something to the whole thing. So like, you got to mean something to have that kind of sword laying around and carrying it on you. So like, we know Daemon can do what he does. And he was a little overconfident and already celebrating and stuff. So why he kind of lost that fight afterwards. But with that being said, the princess coming in there, I think the one thing good this show's done so far was that one of the very first scenes you see in episode 1 is Daemon and the princess coming together and talking in that first thing. And he even gives her a gift. So you get to understand that they do have a relationship, right? They do like each other and possibly even love each other or whatever, even if it's just like uncle kind of like love, uncle and niece kind of love or whatever. Yeah. You got to be careful though. We are talking about the Targaryens, so they could be like all kinds of love. But
I think they're making that a point because they're showing I think they're building on those scenes with them together because they showed it last episode with them, which when he's in during the tournament, scene between them, then scene between them. I think they're more showing you, letting you know what's going to happen.
And I think that's one of the reasons why she shows up, right? She knows she has that relationship. She knows she could do a little more than what she could if it was somebody else. She walks up there, she stands before him and says, "Look, I'm the one. I don't know why you're trying to be mad at the king. I'm the heir. I'm the one that's stopping you from having what you want eventually. So why don't you kill me?" He can't do it. And like you said, he even throws back the egg to her and everything else. And one thing I thought cool was this scene is I kind of starting to like these like dragon handlers, I guess you would call them. The ones that kind of guard the dragons at certain points. And like, I guess they guard the eggs as well. And everything is supposed to keep them like safe and everything else. Because they were there to get the egg after she gets it. She hands it to them and they put it in like almost like a pot that's on fire kind of thing. So I think that's kind of cool to add to the lore and add to the world. Like back in the day when dragons were here, there were actually people that were in charge of like handling them and stuff. That's got to be a scary ass job. Not a lot of people standing in line to get that job, most likely. But yeah, I thought that was a powerful scene that he does that and walks away. It even pisses off his soon-to-be wife, right? Or even if he ends up marrying her because of the scene we see right after that where he's talking to like what was supposed to be his newlywed. He's still saying he's going to marry her, but she's a little upset and everything else because like once the princess got there, it was like he didn't really stand up for her and everything else as much as she thought that he would. And everything else. She kind of storms off even before everything was over with outside on the wall. So like on this, thought that was an interesting scene or whatever. She's talking about I wanted to be free. And he was like, "What did you want to be free of?" And she's like, "Fear." And that's one of the things because like if he's not going to stand up for her, then she has a reason to be afraid because people's going to want to take her out. Because he has a Targaryen name, he might be safe on that. Maybe the king won't kill him. Maybe the king just puts him, in one of the dungeon cells or something like that, right? But keeps him alive. Maybe he sends his brother to the wall or something like that, but doesn't really probably kill him. But with her, she's not really part of the family, so she could be an easy like scapegoat. Like, well, let's kill her to get even with him, kind of thing. So she's kind of afraid of that. I thought that was a pretty good setup for that as well.
Yeah, I don't think she'll be lasting too long with him. I think. Because she's fearing for her life, and I don't think she trusts him all that much, and she might just do away with her. So I think that's kind of done with them, honestly.
Yeah, and then we have the king, and you had the hand of the king as well. We also know in the first episode we talked about this last week that the king's hand is sending his daughter out there to like talk to the king. So they had that set up. She does it a couple of times here as well in episode, she even like gets a little statue that he had that was broken or whatever that he dropped or something like that. She had it like fixed by one of the stonemasons and everything else. So she's kind of like sneaking up on in there, doing her thing. She knows what she's doing. Her dad knows what he's doing when he's sending her in there and everything else. They're trying to get some power here. And obviously she's older. I'm not even going to say anything about beautiful or whatever, because both of these women are supposed to be pretty young in this show right now. Like, I'm pretty sure the King's Hand's daughter is not supposed to be that old as well. Like, she obviously older than the other girl, but like not super, probably not of woman age, or if she is, she's just made it. But like, she is older, she is wiser obviously than the other girl, so she's able to step in there and kind of get more of the king's affection. The king knows that he's got to like get another heir and everything else. So like, people's trying to play for that. But before we even get into that, because that's going to be one of the last things we talk about as well, is the daughter, and I'm calling this scene the daughter, the princess and the queen that never was. One of the most powerful scenes probably in this episode right here was the princess sitting down next to the lady who in the very first episode we found out like lost the kingship, almost became king or queen, whatever you want to call it. They had that great council, and she ended up losing the vote and everything else. And she's there, and they kind of have this interaction that's pretty hardcore where it comes from. And I love the way the princess was just like, "Oh, the queen that never was," and calls her that right to her face. So you got the animosity happening there. Something's up. We also have her husband, the guy who's got all the ships and everything else that's on the small council. He also is feeling pretty let down a little bit later on in this episode as well. So like, you're pissing probably two very powerful people off here. Both the princess ain't helping anything either, and the king obviously by making his decisions isn't helping this process either. But like, what did you think about the princess meeting the queen that never was?
That was really good, because she gives it, because the princess gives it back to her against and says but once they have an heir, you ain't gonna be here no more. Once he has a son, they're gonna pass you over just like they passed over me, and you ain't gonna have no powers. So I mean, look at what's going around you. Be aware, like, just be aware of your surroundings. But like, you're focused on the wrong stuff right now, and you better wise up on what's going on.
I think the way to play the Game of Thrones, to me, after seeing the first part of this show and the original Game of Thrones, is like to not want or need the power, right? Like, especially need. Maybe won't, throw that out, but especially the word need. You don't be that person that needs the power, like a Peter Baelish. Like, I don't think Varys in the first original Game of Thrones wanted really power. I think he was really legitimately just trying to help the kingdom and whatnot. But like, Stannis needed the power. All these people needed the power. Cersei needed the power. I think the trick is to be smart, and maybe you can want the power because you think you would be the better option, right? You think that you could do a great job. Like, one of the things she says during this conversation is like, I can change those decrees, right? Where there's no women can't be sitting on the Iron Throne so far. She'll be the first one to sit on there, and she can make changes as queen. Like, so she's wanting to make positive changes, right? Like, I think as long as you can keep everything in line, be smart, very meticulous about what you want to do. But once you start needing that, like, you get a taste of that power and you need it, like it's something that it's almost like a drug. I think that's where most people make their mistakes and go a little bit too far. Because sometimes if you're just a little more patient and let things kind of play out a little bit so that you can see what you can to make the best decisions, I think overall you could win the Game of Thrones, to be perfectly honest with you. But everybody's in such a hurry. Everybody wants that power, got to have that power. And I think the king's sister, who like lost the original thing where she almost became queen, Targaryen, like, I think she's trying to rush things along. Now, she is older as well, so maybe that's why she's trying to move a little fast, but she's trying to do things, man. They're trying to get married, make a successor, all this stuff, so her side of the family can get the power. You see the play here. It's not going to be anything big to let people know. Obviously, these two are going to go at it at some point. They're going to have people that rally behind them. Don't know who they're going to be yet exactly and everything else. But these two are going to go at each other. that's probably going to be part of the dance that we're going to see majorly, is like these two women, very powerful women, going at each other, and everything else later
Or
on in the season
or maybe they join together.
Maybe. I don't think so, man. I don't think so.
I mean, it could swerve on you.
I mean, I don't think that's happening, bro. I don't think that's happening. I saw the look in their eyes. Listen to me. The look when the queen looked at her when she made that one response, and the queen looks back at her and says, "I don't know if you're trying to make me mad, but it ain't working." Kind of look. When her eyes looked upon the queen that never was, I heard the Stone Cold music come on. I heard the bon on, bon on, bon on.
I could see her join them just because she would. Yeah, I couldn't be queen, but I would still like to see a queen on there. That's why I could see her being on her side.
I don't know, because when we go through the rest of the episode, it'll be another reason. Because we'll just go ahead and talk about it now, because we'll just get to it. So, like, there at the very end, the big reveal. Usually at Game of Thrones shows, there's an hour long. At the very end of one, you get some kind of a thing that happens, whether it's a discussion that you've been waiting for, an interaction that you've been waiting for. Maybe it's a big battle ending or something like that. But in this particular episode, it was the king actually making his decision about who he would wed next, because he does need to wed. He's the king. That's what the realm expects him to do. And it's between the younger girl we talked about, which was that lady's daughter, and actually the Hand's daughter. And that was the kind of choice he had laying before him and all this stuff. The smart choice would have been to wed his sister's daughter to make that better, right? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, to make that just everybody would be cool. His sister would be cool. Her husband, like earlier in the show when he didn't make that big, strong claim to go and like take over the powers, the crab feeder or whatever, like that would have made that easier, because then that guy would be like, okay, so he made this dumbass decision over here, but you know what? He's being cool and he's marrying the families together. We're making everything stronger and everything else. So this to me was a dumb decision, because he chooses to marry and announces he's going to marry the Hand's daughter, who doesn't bring him a lot of power. I mean, the Hightowers aren't like a shabby house or anything like that. Let's don't say we shouldn't say that the Hightowers don't have a little power, because at this point in time, they do actually have more power than a lot of houses out there. So they are a powerful house, no doubt. But with that being said, with the situation that was going on, it's like you're not reading the room, my man. The smart decision may not be the decision that you want. Like, you needed to make this other decision, or he should have made the decision to help the home dude out with this crab feeder before, earlier in the show, to maybe lessen this one, right? Like, yeah. So if you showed like, oh soften the blow a little bit. But see, like, that's what I'm talking about. This dude ain't making good decisions across the board. He's being weak, and the show's making him out to be weak, and I think he's supposed to be weak. Then that's probably the reason why we're going to even have the Dance of Dragons. And like, to be honest with you, like, bruh, you put these two negatives together, and then all that does is you basically might as well be there doing this right here, because you stirring the crap in the pot right there, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, you getting it ready and everything. So like, obviously this is not going to work out very well. This is going to cause some issues and some problems, because we do see at the very end of the episode as well, the gentleman on the small council go and talk to Damon, basically saying, hey, look, here we go. We look, your king weak. All right. Your brother weak. We need to do something here. We need to make some changes. We're cut from the same cloth, because we've been second sons. We're the ones that's been having to make like our way in the world, that kind of thing. And like, oh man. So I thought that was a pretty substantial scene as well. And we find out we already seeing some of the things unraveling, not for the king to lose his power or to possibly be killed. Is he going to be killed or just lose his power in some way? We're going to find out probably later in this season, because I know this is going to be multiple seasons, but probably we're going to find out what's going to happen to him probably not too long from now. But yeah, man, those couple of things there, like, you got any takes on that?
Yeah, this is the start of it. I mean, this is the start of the whole war. This is what everything's going to lead up to. Is this starts with this decision of him deciding to marry Alicent Hightower. And of course, if you see the previews, they're going to have a kid. That was in the previews. They're going to have a kid. That's what starts. That's his heir. That's what's going to start with the Dance of Dragons. And it was because of this decision, him listening to his hand, instead of doing the right thing and marrying the Valerian girl. that would have been a better decision, and it would have stopped it from the whole, Seven Kingdoms going to war. And because it just shows like, okay, now I know where I stand with you. You ain't gonna listen to whether it's my shit's getting messed up or whether it's marrying my daughter. You ain't gonna listen to me no way. So why should I stand with you, and why should I have you as my king? Because you ain't for me.
Oh yeah. So like that, you said a lot there, and a lot of it I agree with wholeheartedly, because like when it comes down to it, like I said, if he would have went and took care of the crab feeder and made a strong decision there, at this moment he possibly, and I don't understand why people just can't be honest. Like, why can't you just go up to the family and just be truthful? Be like, look, I've got two decisions to make here. One of them I know like is this, but like I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable. I'm too old. Like, just be honest about it. Be like, I can't marry, this and make this person a queen that's that young. I just can't do it. I don't feel right about it. Morally, don't feel right about it. And what have you, right? Like, so I'm gonna make this other decision, but I'm showing you that I got your back. This is my response, right? Because I went and helped you take care of this crab feeder. Now, like, I'm proving that I got your back with this. This isn't a decision bad on you or for a bad look on you. This is a decision that I'm making just for me, because I don't feel comfortable in that other situation. So that's the thing that he could have played, and at least it wouldn't have made. But if he would have made a stronger decision in the other thing, when he makes this decision, then the other person doesn't think, oh, you're super weak, like at that moment, right? So like that just opens like him making those two decisions in this episode just kind of opened the door up, the floodgates. And that's really what's going to happen now is everything. The sharks are out there in the water and they're all smelling blood. They're coming for it. Damon had already smelt it. Now all these other people are smelling it. I mean, even like his king, the hand of the king obviously thinks he's kind of weak, because he was like, basically, I'm going to throw my daughter at him and he's weak enough to fall for it. And she's good enough to like really kind of talk him into this, or really get into his affections and get respect to be able to get this decision. Now, I do think another important thing as far as the show goes was that we saw the unhappiness when he makes that decision about like who he was going to marry between the two friends that they've already set up in these first two episodes. The look on the princess's face and everything as she like leaves the room after he announces the decision, even how scared, like the King's Hand's daughter knew that this wasn't going to be what the princess wanted, knew it. Like, right. She was even scared whenever he was making the decision. She didn't look super happy. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be picked. And like, oh, I'm happy I'm going to be marrying the king. She was kind of like, oh God, this is kind of, she was nervous, right? Yeah. Maybe she wants to be the queen, but in that aspect, she was still nervous about the interactions that were going to take place in the room in the hand. She probably was like, man, I wish I wasn't in this room right now, because this is about to be uncomfortable. And it was, like I said, the princess kind of gets out of there and that pisses the princess off and everything else. So now I think that the princess might make a decision or two in the next episodes coming up that may be like kind of in that emotional state, right? Like being pissed off about the situation, not liking this decision made by the king, because she thought the king was going to marry, her aunt's daughter and everything else. And like, it looks like it's not going to go that way. And it kind of pisses her off. So we'll see what she does in the next episode. I'm very interested in that to see what comes up. But what do you think about this? Like I told you last episode, because like you're the one reading the book. I'm not. I'm staying away from it. I'm trying to be as blind as a bat going into this series, because I don't want to know what's happening. But you've already looked ahead and read in the book. I said there was something up with these two girls right here. I knew it. And I knew that something was going to be taking place whenever the hand sends his daughter to talk to the king the first time in the last episode. And we're already getting some of that results already happening right now about who's playing the Game of Thrones exactly and everything else. So like, yeah, man, what did you think about like that interaction as well? Like, did you go ahead?
No, that's why I was talking about earlier, why I thought the older princess would join on Rhaenyra's side, because I mean, you just pissed off her husband, just shunned her whole family. So why would she ever go on the king's side and go with his heir? That's why it said like maybe she's thinking about, they had that whole back and forth conversation, but she ain't gonna be with the king, so there's only one other side, and that's to be with Rhaenyra's side.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right, because like that could have been one of those options that sometimes happens when you have things like this happen, is you're going to have that kind of back and forth with someone to kind of test their, metal. You're going to be like, all right, is this person, is she strong? Like, how strong is she? Is she going to sit here and like fold because I'm kind of going at her a little bit, or is she going to like stand up for herself and really do that? So like you're right. Like that could have been not her not liking the princess. That could have been her testing the princess to see like if the princess is strong enough to make like an actual decision against her own father, right? Like that could be that, because you're gonna have to be a pretty strong-willed person to finally go against your own father. Like it's not like they have
in this episode. She already defied her father's
yeah, but like
to go to Dragonstone, she did that, so it's already happened.
Right. But like that, I would say, is a smaller thing than to declare war on your dad, basically, right? Like that's a big, huge step compared to her like disobeying and going out to Dragonstone. That's a huge leap. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's this showing that she's willing to disobey her father, but how great of a lengths would she go? Because like I get that like their daughter and father relationship wasn't like the best in the world, but it also wasn't the worst. Because this king does seem like a calm-mannered man. It's not like he probably like mistreated her. Like she doesn't like that maybe he was overlooking her at some points and he was always looking for the heir, that kind of thing. But like treating her bad or treating her wrong, it doesn't seem like he did any of that. And I do think that she actually does care for her father. So I don't think it's going to be the super easy like, choice of like, oh yeah, my dad's a piece of crap. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not like he beat her or did anything like that, or even forced her to do something really bad during that time. So like, we'll see what's happening with that. Yeah, but that pretty much was the second episode of the House of Dragons. We pretty much covered it all in this thing right here. Like I said, I even took some notes, dog. I even took some notes, man. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, boy. We note takers, son. We taking this shit serious over here at the Let's Get Ready Network. But yeah, man, dude, we love this series. We love Game of Thrones, and we love watching people try to play it, because if you do, you either win or you die. And we do know some people's going to die. And I do know that, like, one of the things that I'm going to be kind of sad about already is that I do think the younger girls playing their parts in this first couple of episodes has done it right. The Hand of the King's daughter and Rhaenyra, is that how you say her name?
Rhaenyra.
The princess is
Rhaenyra.
So like Rhaenyra and the Hand of the King's daughter, both of those, I think the actresses have done super good, super well. Like really played their parts well. But I do know that like around episode 5 or 6, we're going to do a major time jump. And then there's going to be older characters, older actors actually playing these two girls, because it's going to jump a few years up in time. So it won't make sense for them to look the same. Yeah. But I do think that these two girls are making a name for themselves on this show. I think they've actually played both of their parts really super well. The mild, timid one that's trying to win the king's affection. And then you have the other one that's a little more like Daenerys or whatever, later on in the future, like more hardcore, more wanting to get up on that dragon and ride it and take over the world kind of situation. Like, so, but I think they're both playing their parts like super well. Like I felt both of them made me feel like, oh, this is a real friendship. Only in 2 episodes that this is a real friendship that's getting broke up right here, possibly later on down the line, if not even the next episode. So we do have that to look forward to. But let's get into it, man. Like I said, guys, we do have Streamlabs open. I do have the thing set up to where it will actually show up on screen if you send in one. If you want to send any kind of questions or whatnot to us about this episode real quick before we get out of here, because the last thing we're fitting to do here, and I want to see you guys in the chat like reacting to that too as well. Last thing we're going to do here, man. Caleb, what was your favorite scene in this episode?
Well, I think it was pretty much the climate, the biggest scene in this episode, which was the face off of the 2 dragons. Her just swooping on in, looking all badass and saying, "What's up? I'm here, you ain't about to do what you want to do." So, I'm showing my strength right here and telling you what's up. I thought that was the best episode. Damn
it, that was also.
It's a clear one. Like I think that was pretty much most people.
That was also my favorite scene, because I think a couple of things was laid down for us in that. It's like, oh, cool, you got a dragon. Oh, wait, I got a dragon. And then So now we're even odds. Like it ain't going to be sitting here like a takeover at that point, right? And then like she walks up, she talks to Damon. We see where Damon kind of his allegiances kind of lie there. To me, be honest with you, I think if it comes between him having to do something against the princess, that he overall wouldn't do it. He may stand against her at some point, or he may even like want to kind of stand against her. But I think overall, when the decision's made, let's say if it's like him and her on the battlefield, and he got the opportunity and a chance to take her out if he needed to, I don't think he can pull the trigger. I think that's proved here. I don't think he can do that or overcome that. He has some kind of love and affection. Like I said, whether it's just regular family love, like he just loves his niece and thinks she's really cool, whatever, or it's more of that Targaryen love that we frown upon. The kind of love that we frown upon here at the Let's Get Ready Network. I know I'm from Alabama, but I do not agree with that.
You know all about that.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, here how it goes. Like, so I actually do. That's my favorite scene as well in this episode. So we both have that. I do think that's going to be a lot of people's favorite episode. But Caleb, what's the most important scene in this episode?
I think the conversation that Corlys Velaryon had with Damon, and he said that our house is older than the Targaryen house. We're from Old Valyria too. But we just were one of the common families. We weren't, one of the Dragon Lords, and so we had a fight for what we got, and what we got is our ships, and that's what we need. We need to keep our ships because without that, our family falls apart. Like we're worth anything, because we don't have the dragon connection. So we need those ships because we need Driftmark to keep in our power. And if the king's not helping us with it, you have to help us with it to keep that keep us going. Because why is that important? Because in Game of Thrones, you never heard of the family Velaryon. They don't exist in Game of Thrones.
They got their ass wiped out at some point.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of telling you something's gonna happen. Maybe this is what's leading on to the demise of the Velaryons.
If you take what we know about the Game of Thrones in the, say, present day time period, right? Like, which is the Game of Thrones that we watched first. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of weird to say that because technically it's been a few years ago we watched the series. But like, and that series is more modern day. And this is obviously in the past, about 172, almost 200 years. You also got to look at Hightower, right? And this show looks like Hightowers have some power, like I was talking about. And I do think that they had a decent amount of power during this time. But we don't really see too many Hightowers when it comes to like the Game of Thrones, the original series. So, you know what I'm saying? Some people were bogging up the wrong tree and got that ass wiped out. Now, I don't know if this is the battle that totally, completely wiped them out. This might have been.
It's just kind of like saying, no, well, okay, this is the reason why they fell off and they're not there no more.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, this is going to be interesting. I actually have a tie for this one, to be perfectly honest with you. I do think, but overall, the more important for the series is kind of an obvious one is the decision of the marriage. The decision of the king to marry Hightower's daughter instead of actually going the other route. I think that's the most important thing. That's going to be the catalyst to everything kind of starting to fall apart. It already has some things that's starting to do that, but this right here is even a bigger moment that's going to cause that to happen. But I also think really close, like 1A and 1B was the conversation that we were talking about with the two princesses, the queen that never was and the princess, like I was talking about earlier, because I think that conversation laid down some ground rules. Let's say you're right, and let's say them two actually do team up together. And you're obviously probably going to see it because I could see her teaming up with Damon, and Damon looks like he's teaming up with Homegirl's husband, right? Like, so that might actually happen. So they actually might be on the same side. But I do think that this lays the groundwork of the princess being like, we might have to work together at some point, but you're not over me. You're older than me. But I'm the princess. I'm the heir. You're going to be below me no matter what you choose. I will fight you, but even if we're on the same side, you will never take over what I have. Like, I think that's the language that I got from their conversation. So, like, with that being said, I think it's very important to realize that, like, the power dynamic there is, even though the princess is younger, she is the true heir. She was named the true heir. You had all the 7 kingdoms come and bend the knee to her to approve that situation. Her father is still saying that as of right now. Things may change to where he ends up taking that back at some point. But as of right now, he's still backing that up. basically, I think the princess, the queen to be, said, yo, you can do what you want, but no matter what decision you make, you will be behind me. You'll be under me, regardless, whether I fight you or whether you're on my side. You will not take what I have. You will not take what I'm supposed to be away from me. And I think that's a very key thing that's going to happen later on. So, like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how the Dance of Dragons plays out. I don't know who wins, who loses, who becomes the whatever, at the end of this whole thing. But I do realize that they're going to have interactions one way or the other. And I do love the fact that the princess was able to be like, yo, bro, like, yo, you're going to be taking that back seat no matter which ride we in. So I think those are the two most important things that happen in this thing. And two really great episodes to start off this new show, this new season with. Like, I'm super hyped now because usually you have to give shows, like, you have that 3 rule where it's like, oh man, give them 3 episodes, or really kind of give them 3 episodes to give you the chance of getting you interested in it. Bro, I was interested in the first episode, even more interested in the second episode. Like, I think HBO, like, they're doing the right thing. They're not following these guidelines or everybody else. Like, I think the Lord of the Rings is showing the fact that they're a little bit scared because they're not just dropping 1 episode on the first day. They're dropping 2 episodes on the first day. I think that they thought, well, we might not be able to, like, really rein in everybody just on 1 episode. We need to really throw 2 episodes there. I really have to commend HBO for being that group that's like, yo, bro, we're keeping this thing 1 episode at a time. You're going to wait a week before you see the next episode, because that's how we're running things over here, because I just think they have super confidence in the way it is. And you can obviously tell that George R.R. Martin has a big key role to play in how they're doing these shows. They really talk to him. You get that feel. It truly feels like this is a different time period in the world of Westeros, in the world of the Game of Thrones. This show to me is like, it's like I'm watching new episodes of Game of Thrones. I get the things that I have, and I can't wait for it to go ever further to see, like, if what I think is going to happen happens, or, making your theories. It gives me a week. I love this fact. It gives us a week to talk and think about, hey, what may happen in the next episode to come, right? Like, what's going to happen? What's going to be the key thing that happens there, and all that stuff, and speculate. And I think it's really super fun to do that with the Game of Thrones, because literally there are no rules in this show. They cut off Ned Stark's head. I mean, that proved, and there's other times like the Red Wedding and stuff like that. Hey, fall in love with a character. Dare you, Greg, if you're still watching, I dare you. Pick your favorite character right now. Fall in love with them, root for them with all your heart and all your ambition, and watch it crumble in front of your face like we all did episode after episode after episode in the original Game of Thrones. And like I said, me and Brandy's been doing a rewatch of the Game of Thrones, the original series. And like, it's been amazing to watch with somebody that truly had never been spoiled about things that were happening. Caleb's even joined a couple of episodes in, and to be able to get those emotions from that person and stuff that we had the first time we watched Game of Thrones has been truly amazing. But Caleb, unless you got some last words, man, we're about to get out of here.
No, just obviously, if you've seen the previews, you can see that a lot of battles coming. So if you thought this episode was a little slow and there was just a lot of conversation happening, and you're more like into the big battles, well, I think that's coming. So just hold on, you'll be getting that.
Hey, you know what, man? Your dad giving you props out there. How heartwarming is that? You know what I'm saying? I think if your dad was king, he'd let you be air, man. I don't think he'd be trying to screw you around or anything. I think your dad's cool. He's here supporting you and everything else. But like it always said in the Game of Thrones, baby, and even though the long night might be a long time from now because it happens about 200 years in the future, as always, winter is coming. And until next time, guys, love all you guys. Thank you for all the support and everything else. But like I said, until next time, peace.